Hello, and welcome back to the Nourished with Purpose podcast. It's Bailey, and I hope you're having a great Wednesday or whenever you're listening to today's episode. Thank you so much for being here. Just a reminder, if you are new to the podcast or if you haven't yet left a rating or review, 5 stars, please, on either Spotify or Apple Podcasts, I would love for you to do so. Again, I just have to put that little shout out as we get into today's episode. But really, today's episode is one that I've been thinking about for a long time, and I feel like has become very in my face most recently, and I wanted to touch on it. And this might honestly be the start of a series on society's obsessions. I feel like as a society, there are things that have become normalized that should really not be normal, and bringing light to them and attention to them, I think, is really important. And I honestly want to share about my experience and just what I see. And I feel like if these are things that are in my face and very loud right now, they might be and probably are feeling pretty loud for you. Just to give a warning, we will be talking about weight loss medications, and some types of disordered eating on today's episode. So if those are conversations that are very sensitive to you, please, again, do not listen to today's episode. Otherwise, we are going to move forward with my updates and just what's going on in my life, as well as the weekly segment of how I'm nourishing my mind, body, and spirit. And then we will jump into today's episode. So really, today's episode, like I had said, is around society's obsession around weight loss, those quick fixes, and how we can silence the noise. I don't want this to sound like me ranting about things that really just bother me, both as a person and as a coach of women who struggle really deeply with some of these things. But how we can actually work towards ignoring or silencing how loud this can feel and this conversation can feel sometimes. So you'll leave with some takeaways for sure, like I hope you do on every episode. I hope you leave feeling encouraged and inspired just to take care of your whole body health. Very into taking a big picture approach and caring about every aspect of your well-being just to really live an ultimately well life. So catching up with some updates. I am now back from maternity leave. This is my first week back, and I'm not going to lie, it's not rough. I think there's just a lot of growth that happened during my maternity leave, just in my relationship with not feeling like I need to work all the time and money. And honestly, I feel like all of that just came back when I started working again on Monday. Just a lot of like self-doubt or questioning, and it was a little overwhelming, I'm not going to lie. And part of it too is Oliver is home with me while I'm working. So I'm really like, my brain is flipping between work and client calls and client sessions and then feeding him. And it's something I'm so grateful for, and I need to view it as that because it's a privilege that I get to work at home and get to work from a computer. I think it's just hard to be seated for so long again. So much of what I do talks about being physically active and nourishing your body well, and all things and pillars in my life that I really honor. But I do have a job that is mostly sedentary. So I have to really work a little bit harder to be active outside of work, which is just how it is. Obviously, I'm grateful to be able to do what I'm doing, so I don't want to sound ungrateful for that. It's just like getting into any new thing, it can feel a little bit overwhelming at first to find your rhythms and routines and get kind of into, just get back into it. So that's currently what I'm going through. Outside of that, the week before I actually came back from maternity leave, I made coffee syrups and sold them. And just because I wanted something fun to do, and it's a passion of mine. It's something that I've really done a lot of during my maternity leave, is come up with new coffee syrup recipes and share them over on my Instagram and all the things. And I discussed on last week's episode why I think that it is so valuable to me to make a coffee for somebody. Like, it's just my way of serving them. And I think there's something really special about that interaction, but we can get into that at a different time. But anyway, I did that, and we went to then Lincoln and Omaha to deliver those syrups on Friday, Nathan, Oliver, and I. And really, it was just a quick trip that day, but it was fun just to like go to different people's houses or places that they work and drop off syrups, and kind of like a little gift to them. Obviously, they purchased them, but I don't know, it just felt really fun and special. So that was a big piece. I made 44 jars of syrup, which is crazy. I'm like, well, maybe now I need to do like a monthly flavor or something. I didn't include Bananas Foster on like the order form because it was one that I was still kind of, and I honestly still am kind of experimenting with, just to make it preserve a little bit longer without adding anything funky to it. Obviously, I would not do that because I don't look for products that have a lot of like preservatives in them, but sugar is a natural preservative. So anyway, long story short, I was trying to like create a different formula for that syrup, but I would love to offer that and have that be an option because that is truly my absolute favorite. If you are wanting to find that recipe, you can find it on my Instagram or on YouTube, actually on YouTube Shorts. I've been posting reels over there as well. And I've had it consistently every single day since the first time I made it. So it's been at least over 14 days. I brought it to my parents' house on Mother's Day and made us all lattes, and really that syrup it's next level. I'm making it then this weekend for my best childhood friend is getting married on Saturday, and so I'm making syrups for our coffees that we're going to have that morning. So there's just a lot kind of happening this week. Obviously, I'm getting back into work. Last week I really focused on kind of wrapping up some things that are outside of work, and then this weekend I have a wedding and I'm in, and I'm so excited about it. It's like I said, one of my closest childhood friends. We've been friends for I don't even know, a long time, since our brothers were really little, and it's just going to be such a special day to celebrate them together. And then the next weekend, we have a wedding again that my husband and I are in. That is his closest childhood friend, and then I've obviously gotten close to his fiance. So a lot of celebration happening in the month of May, a lot of really fun things to look forward to, and obviously like update you on if anything changes or happens over the next couple of weeks, but definitely very much anticipating those two events. They're both going to be very big, and it's going to be interesting navigating them with a newborn. We actually bought little headphones for Oliver, and I really want to put them on him because they're just going to be so darn cute. But I'm also told my mom, I'm like, I'm going to bring my front carrier so I can be on the dance floor, have his little headphones in, and he can definitely be in it, but we'll see how it all goes. It's going to be interesting, like I said, navigating that, but hopefully he can be around and be in good spirits and have a good mood on both of these next weekends because, yeah, just a lot going on. Outside of that, I was going to talk to you because this honestly is kind of where the idea for this episode stemmed from, which is going to sound really like, what are you talking about? But Nathan and I have really been into The Secret Lives of Mormon Wives season 2. It is trash television. It's honestly almost embarrassing to say that I watch it. It's kind of like when you tell people that you love watching the Kardashians, it's like, okay, but I love the Kardashians. That's something that Nathan and I both watch. And now with the second season of the Mormon Wives show, we had to watch it. And honestly, it's one of those shows that it's not really quality TV, and no offense to them, but it's not really quality TV. There's a lot of just, I don't know. It's very interesting to say the least. So we're like, we just need to sit down and get through this. I'm like, it's not even really that enjoyable to watch. I just need to know what happens. And I really feel like that's how reality TV is. It's like honestly kind of trash TV, but I don't have any drama really in my life at all, thankfully. And so it provides that bit of drama or that hit of drama that I don't have. And so we were watching that. But what kind of led me to create today's episode is every commercial break, there were at least 4 commercials for weight loss medications. And it kind of brought up this discussion between Nathan and I that I'll talk about in a little bit. And I'm like, that is just so harmful and it's so annoying. Like, we just started muting the TV because I'm not kidding. It was every other commercial was a different brand of a weight loss medication. And I think what's really difficult about that is, that think about your population watching The Secret Lives of Mormon Wives. Probably a lot of 20 to 30-year-olds watching it with their friends or with their significant other or watching it with their husband, and they are all being shown this portrayal of what you should do, could do to be skinny. And I don't know, I just think that's really disappointing. And it's on Hulu, so maybe different streaming platforms show different things and different commercials. But it was so obnoxious. And like I said, almost every other commercial was a different brand selling you a weight loss medication in terms of like an injection. And I just think that's extremely disappointing. But kind of just coming back to the show, lots of drama. If you like drama and you personally like watching drama, not being involved in it, I would highly recommend. Like I said, it's not the best form, or it's not like the best show ever, probably not the most appropriate show out there, but it was definitely very entertaining. And that is honestly what has consumed most of our evenings this last week and weekend. And then outside of that, doing things like getting outside, I got my garden planted, and I think maybe I talked last week about planting my garden, but didn't talk about like what I am planting. So I have like peppers, tomatoes, hot peppers, jalapeno popper type of peppers, heirloom tomatoes. I've got watermelon, zucchini, cucumbers, green beans, which is what I'm most excited about. Oddly enough, my number two pregnancy craving was green beans. Specifically, my grandma's canned green beans. They're next level. It was that and cottage cheese I felt like I could eat till I was sick from for a few weeks at least during pregnancy, and like chips. Those three things were just like all that I wanted. Obviously, I didn't just indulge in those, but it was definitely very the desire to have those was very loud. So I'm really excited about the green beans. And then I also did some chaos planting of flowers. I know the term chaos gardening is kind of going around right now, and that is 100% of what I would describe myself as. I'm kind of like let's plant these as close together as I want. We'll see how they grow. I don't really read any labels or see what grows well together. I've always had pretty good luck, with the exception of last year when the spray around our house on the fields, when they sprayed the fields around our house, I should say, drift killed a lot of my garden. But outside of that, I've had pretty good luck, and that's 100% because I've watched my grandparents' garden and I just mimic exactly what I've seen them do over the years. I really don't know that much. But when it comes to chaos gardening, in a sense of planting flowers, I get this bagged mix from Walmart, and I think it's hummingbird and butterfly friendly, which we don't really have a lot of hummingbirds or butterflies around our yard. I think just with the agriculture around us, it's not where they necessarily want to be. And so with that, you get this bagged mix and you just sprinkle it, and then you rake it in and then you water it. And I did it last year when I did an overabundance of flowers, and they all came up really, really well. It gives you a variety of different flowers to plant, but it already comes fertilized and in a mix versus having to buy the packets. So I did that in one of my gardening beds. We'll see how that goes and grows. Hopefully I have a ton of cut flowers again this year like I did last year. And I really feel like that is about it. There's just not, there's obviously a lot happening, but not a lot of really significant updates happening. Just trying to, enjoy the beautiful weather that we've been having, getting outside for walks like I've talked about, and spending time as a family. Getting our yard kind of picked up has been kind of a focus, I would say, in the last month. Okay, so then jumping into the segment of each podcast where I talk about how I'm nourishing my mind, body, and spirit. How I'm nourishing my mind is I've been plugging my phone in our kitchen, and I think that's always helpful. If you really struggle being on your phone late at night, or even while you're watching TV, something I try to do is plug my phone in the kitchen when we watch TV at night, so it's not me thinking I need to scroll during every commercial break. Instead, it's already put away. And so I try to do that around after supper, depending on when we eat. And I'm not perfect about it, but it's really helpful because I haven't had to set an alarm because Oliver is kind of our alarm, and we also have a hatch that will go off, so I don't feel like I need to even have it with us in the bedroom as an alarm. So that's been really nice. And also kind of reminding myself as I get back into work, which this is really, really hard for me to do, is reminding myself that people don't need a response from me within 5 minutes. I think sometimes text messages stress me out because I feel like I need to respond as soon as possible. Because I think if I send a text, sometimes if I don't get a response within like a few hours, I'm like, oh my gosh, are they mad at me? Did I do something? Which is just myself and my brain spiraling to things that aren't true, which is when I have to ask myself, like, can I confirm that that's true? And most often you cannot. So I stop hyperfixating on it. But it's like that belief that we have to respond to everything right away. And so I think I've gotten a lot better of just reminding myself that people don't need a response right away, and that's fine. It's just important that you do get back to people eventually, I think, just out of respect. So reminding myself of that, like I said, especially as I get back into work and my phone kind of becomes a work tool again, which I really had, no clients or anything messaged me during that time, like that I was taking off. They really respected that, which I appreciate. Obviously, I would have been fine to hear from them, but I tried to set the boundary of not responding until I was actually back in office. And so, now my phone is a tool for work again. So it's kind of recreating that boundary again. Then how I'm nourishing my body is I've been making myself drink a glass of electrolytes and my Perfect Aminos mix after I wake up and have breakfast before I have my coffee. I'm not kidding. Since I started making that banana Foster syrup, I wake up and all I want is a coffee. I just want a latte so bad. It's honestly been hard for me to want to have breakfast, which is my I shouldn't say number one rule. A huge rule of mine is always having food pretty significant amount of protein specifically before you have any source of caffeine. So I do respect that and respect the rule I've set around caffeine, but it's hard when you know how good and delicious your latte is going to be. It's like, what the heck? Like, I just want to have that now. So I've been having myself make sure I'm at least getting hydrated before I have caffeine and getting a source of protein. Like I said, pretty significant. I try to aim for like 20 to 25 grams within my first meal of the day. And then how I am nourishing my spirit. And this is one, again, I don't want to come on here every week and be like, oh yeah, I'm doing all of these 3 things perfectly. This is the area that I'm probably doing the worst or neglecting the most. I think I've gotten really out of the habit of having a morning routine, which my morning routine used to be everything to me until I got pregnant and realized when you don't feel good, you don't really want to have a rigid morning routine. Or when you don't feel good, you don't necessarily want to go and work out at 5 a.m. anymore, which is big for me because I used to be a 5 a.m. riser and I would try to get that done, get my workout done and eat and everything before 7 o'clock. And now I'm waking up at like 7:30 to 8 o'clock. That's typically when Oliver wakes up. And so that's when I naturally get up. And then it's like, okay, he needs fed. I need to have breakfast. I need to kind of figure out what I'm doing for the day. Like on my Mondays, I work from 9 to 7. On Tuesdays, I work from 12 to 7, roughly, obviously depending on when calls are scheduled. And then Fridays, I'll be working from 6:30 to I think 4. So it's like my hours are always kind of different. So I think that's where I'm like struggling to take the time to sit down and do a devotional and read the Bible, because if I wake up and I don't know when Oliver's going to wake up because it's not always consistent, then it's like, well, if I get into reading the Bible, sometimes I'm interrupted, but it's almost remembering like it's better to at least dive into the word and get interrupted than to just completely neglect that area. So as I'm kind of talking through that, I'm reminding myself of that. But even like on Sunday, we chose to watch church at home and I fell asleep halfway through the sermon. And like, that just does not feel good. That makes you feel like a crummy person. And I'm like, I literally couldn't even stay awake for the rest of the sermon. And it was a good sermon. Like, it wasn't one that should have made me fall asleep, but obviously that's my body saying it's tired and that rest needs to be prioritized, which is what we really did on Saturday and Sunday. We didn't do too much, but at the same time, like, that's pretty disappointing and it makes me disappointed in myself. So just remembering that, like I said, getting into the word and getting interrupted is better than not getting into it at all. And so I need to remind that in these next days, weeks, months moving forward, just without having a very structured morning routine, there are still some things that I can implement. Okay, let's jump into the bulk of today's episode. Again, kind of covering why I wanted to talk about this is I feel like there's a couple things that I've seen. I talked about when we were watching TV, it was every other ad was some sort of weight loss medication. I feel like my Facebook right now has a lot of multi-level marketing posts, and it's very overwhelming and triggering for me. I'm going to be 100% honest. As somebody who works with women, like I said, that are in that age range, and I'm going to kind of talk more about like perimenopausal women, but they're in that age range where they kind of get sucked into these diets and these different diet options because they grew up in the height of very, very in-your-face diet culture, and it really, really makes me upset. But on a personal level, I think it's really just frustrating and triggering because I'm somebody who would have bought into that or wanted that when I was, I would say like early 20s, kind of graduating college, even my senior year of high school into my senior year of college. Like I would have probably bought more into those sorts of things and really wondered like, oh, if I can take something to help me lose weight, like I'm going to buy this supplement, I'm going to buy this product. And I think it's all just exhausting, truthfully. I had one come up too, and now that I'm postpartum, I'm like, well, now they're targeting women postpartum because somehow, obviously, Instagram has figured out probably that I had a kid. I don't know. It's kind of creepy how all of that works. But all of my ads are for like Nature's Ozempic, and it's by Armra or something. Not the colostrum company, but it's a different company, or REA. And it's all of these women talking about how loose their pants are now postpartum because they took this drink, and it's honestly just so annoying that I'm being targeted. I feel again, like every time I open up Instagram, I'm being targeted with an ad for something I could take postpartum to help me lose the baby weight faster. And it's just that narrative that we continue to tell women and men, because this is not just women that struggle with this, that where they are at physically right now is not good enough, that there's always somebody that can look better than them and that will look better than them. And if they want to look as good as this person that is showing them, that is showing off the ad, then they need to take the product that this person is taking. And it's just annoying. It's something that it's really the last thing you want to see postpartum is all of these women trying to bounce back their bodies. And I've talked before, I don't think there is anything wrong with wanting to lose weight or take care of your body or lose fat. There are seasons for everything, and I'm not to say that I'm not in a season where I am trying to lose some fat just from gaining weight not postpartum, but through pregnancy. But it has to be for a motive that feels genuine and is not done out of self-hatred. I think that is where that line gets crossed. Typically, if you're looking to lose weight, it's because you hate what you see, you hate what you look like, you hate how you feel, and then you want to buy a product that's going to change that. And I say buy a product because I feel like 9 times out of 10, that is what happens. And then oftentimes it's those women that have gone through a program or bought a product and then they stop taking it, and then everything goes back to how it was before. And then that's where I find they start working with me, right? We're kind of in that area. So it's just something that I see all the time. And I think it's really exhausting. The reason too why I have an issue with, and I shouldn't say all multi-level marketing companies, I just think sometimes that screams the loudest. The reason that I have an issue with this is because it's honestly, and it's oftentimes women that maybe have already struggled with some sort of disordered eating or eating disorder. Like I just feel like that tends to be the trend, is when you are obsessed with selling a product that is all focused on weight loss, it probably is rooted in something that maybe you've struggled with in the past. I also think that the women that are getting targeted tend to be that perimenopausal age range. And I've talked to my mom about this too. It's that age where like you kind of hit an age and it becomes really hard to lose weight, or maybe your body's changing. And I would say I noticed this after I, turned 24, 25. Like there's different phases of life Even like in junior high, you notice your body changes from 7th to 8th grade. Like there's different stages of life that you notice your body changes and it responds to things differently. So you could be doing the exact same thing you've been doing all these years, but now it's not working. And that is the age of women, perimenopausal women, that get really, really targeted with weight loss medications, weight loss products, being told constantly that they need to be in a season of losing weight. And it's really sad because that's also the age of women that have grown up in some of the most influential diet culture moments. You think of like the 90s into the early 2000s. A lot of diets, right? It wasn't about being strong. It wasn't about being muscular. It was about being as skinny as possible and not eating anything. I mean, that was really what it looked like. You look at the celebrities in that frame of time too, and they're very, very thin. And I think that's just what's really sad to me is that it's like this repetitive cycle, like that they can't get out of. And I'm speaking very generally, not everyone struggles with this. But if you have, it's like that cycle of constantly being told, well, you now need to buy this product and it'll finally help you lose weight after you reach the age of 45 and older. Or you need to get on this diet program because you no longer can eat whatever you want, or you can no longer eat nothing because your metabolism is very dysregulated and now your body can't burn calories efficiently. It's like they're always being targeted, and I have so much empathy for that. And I think the noise for them has to feel so overwhelming, just because they're already in a susceptible place. I would say too, like if we look at high schoolers or college-aged women, like they're in a very easily influential time in their life. So if they're going to constantly being targeted when they're watching The Secret Lives of Mormon Wives with weight loss medications, like they're going to feel influenced to do something or to take, that step if they don't feel content with their physical body. I also think a lot of the time it's projecting their current insecurities onto other women so that they don't feel as alone. And I also, have to mention they're also could be projecting it to their followers on social media that are either their daughters or their daughter's age or high schoolers, or like it is just where we see this generational cycle, and it has to stop. And with society being so obsessed with weight loss, and it's kind of that yin and yang, right? Like I shouldn't say yin and yang. It's like the roller coaster more so, because it's like you go through seasons where, looking like Kim Kardashian and having, a big butt and being super muscular and curvy, like that's really attractive. And now we're going back to being really, really skinny. That's quote attractive. And then, it just is so off and on. And I think it's exhausting again, like I said, and I'll say multiple times, it's exhausting. Like to think that you have to morph your body to fit every different trend of what is quote attractive. Like it is a cycle you will find yourself in, and you'll never actually be happy with your body. And I've seen an example of this play out, and I think that's where I get really, really frustrated, is when I see this generational cycle. For example, like if somebody sells some sort of weight loss product or a product that's catered towards weight loss, if they have a daughter, then they'll put their daughters on that same product. And it is telling them, even if they don't see it as a parent, and again, I'm not speaking for everyone here, but as a parent, even now, if I was taking some sort of weight loss or a product that, even if the ultimate goal wasn't weight loss, but that was a byproduct, and I noticed that and I was sharing that all over, I would never put my son on that, right? And I think that's where we have to also view, like if it's something that you wouldn't put your child on because you worry that it might hurt or harm their relationship with their body or food, then maybe it's something you shouldn't be on. And I'm not here trying to shame or criticize anyone. I just see that pattern play out all the time, and it makes my heart break because, again, it's that cycle that then their daughters will do the same thing with their daughters. And even if you think like it won't, if there's not healing that takes place there, it will. It will continue to influence generations. And we have to all kind of be aware of that because, like I said, society is very obsessed around weight loss. And I can vividly remember this time when I was in high school, which is kind of funny because when I was a junior in high school, I was kind of considering a couple options. I thought about doing the world race very kind of briefly, it's like a mission trip that you go on, and I wanted to go to India to work with women there. And so that was kind of something I was throwing around, taking a gap year before going to college. But I remember sitting on the couch, like showing my mom about the program, and I had a tab open on another page that was for like weight loss burner pills. And I don't know why that sticks out in my brain, but it's just like how sad, and I never bought anything, but like how sad that as like a senior in high school, you are, I mean, just like kind of the paradox there, like wanting to go on a missions trip to work with women, but at the same time, you're so dissatisfied with your body that you want to take a pill to help yourself lose weight and burn fat. Like it's something that just sticks out in my mind because I'm like, I've never taken a product to specifically help me lose weight, but that doesn't mean that thought hasn't been there. And I think every time we consistently get worn down and continue to see people post about some product, or we see advertisements about a product, or we see a commercial about a product, like we're getting worn down to constantly think like, my body is not good enough, it needs to be smaller. And I can tell you now, to always be in a state of wanting to be smaller than you are right now, it's extremely tiring, and it's a place I found myself in many, many times. Even to this day, I still find myself in moments of that, right? Of like wanting to be as small as possible, not necessarily caring if I'm strong. And that cycle is one that I've really broke the habits around that cycle, but that doesn't mean that those thoughts aren't still present and aren't still things that come to mind if I'm making a meal, or if I want to have dessert, or if I'm going out to eat. Like I said, the habits around wanting to be as small as possible, like under eating and over exercising, those have been worked on and healed, but that doesn't mean the thought isn't still present. And I was telling Nathan too, when I look at these commercials and they're constantly being put in your face, right? It's that if I was back as my 18-year-old self, I 100% believe I would have probably tried to get on some sort of medication without anybody knowing, because it is easy to get now. Like the accessibility is so easy. If you look at hers.com, which I'm not here to give you resources, I'm telling you that because they advertise all the time. It's scary how you can really get any medication and it's at a low cost and it'll get shipped to you. It's very, very sad. And that is probably the number one ad that I do see, which is why I am sharing actually a resource. I'm not saying you should look into it. I'm just saying that is one that can be very, very loud. Again, when you always want to be as tiny as possible, and that is what you are kind of taught to believe, right? You're taught and shown, and when you look at people around you, if they're on something and they've seen results positively from a weight loss perspective from taking that product externally, it makes you want to do it. But I think what we have to remind ourselves of is that we see the external, but we don't see the internal, right? We don't see the muscle density decrease. We don't see the osteoporosis that their body has or will have in the future if they're not building muscle. And I'm not here to criticize if you're taking a weight loss medication or injection. That is not something I'm going to touch on and even talk about really from like a health perspective, I guess, in a sense. I just know that the noise can be loud, and if that is not the option or the route that you want to take, there can sometimes feel like there's a lot of pressure around you and that you should necessarily like want to take that. And we don't look at the long-term effects of those things. We haven't really seen the long-term effects. You know, there's a lot of positives that can come from them, but also like if your body's at a point where it would be detrimental to your health to get any skinnier, like that is where I have a huge concern. Or if you're doing things out of hatred for your physical body and continuing to do something and you're not healing the root of the emotional, that emotional component, it's continuously going to be an issue, right? Like these medications, they lower food noise. Well, if you never actually address like, where does the food noise stem from? Why do you think about food all the time? What have you started to believe about yourself because you always think about food? What actions have you taken as a result of always thinking about food? Maybe that's overeating, but okay, so then what would it look like if we lowered the food noise? Like what would need to happen, right? And how can we gradually maybe decrease food intake to get you into a deficit while still allowing all of your nutritional needs to be met in a healthy way? And so I think there's just so many components that come down to it, and I'm not here to talk on weight loss either, but there are ways that you can go about weight loss that are supportive to your health, and then there are ways that feel draining and they make you constantly have to invest in something in order to see the result that you want to see or think that you'll see the result that you want to see. And when it boils down to it, really it all is our society's obsession with constantly putting it in your face that you need to lose weight. And again, like, it's the deeper why behind wanting to lose weight. If you're coming to this episode and you're like, well, I do want to lose weight. Okay, right? But ask yourself these questions. Is it out of self-hatred? Is it because everyone around me is doing it? Is it out of impulse? Maybe it's like, oh, one day really late at night, you're not feeling so good about yourself because you went out to eat and then you had ice cream and you feel like you totally, quote, cheated on your diet, which I hate that verbiage. Then you feel really low and crummy about yourself. Maybe the next day you don't feel good. So in a very vulnerable state, you decide to order a product that will change how you feel in that moment. Another question here too, is it because you truly need something to support weight loss for health reasons? Or is it because you just want to be as tiny as possible, or because you've never felt good enough in your physical body? There's a lot of emotional work that has to happen there, and just a lot of reflection. And I think, and I was talking to somebody today, they've done a lot of reflection on if they actually want to get on a weight loss medication or not. And it's kind of come down to like, they don't feel comfortable with that. And that's what they've decided. They decided that they're going to deny it because they don't feel comfortable doing that right now. And again, it comes with time of thinking about it. Even if you're go to the doctor and maybe they would recommend it, still take that time to think about it. Don't just do it because you've been told from a higher source, in a sense, right? Your doctor or physician, that they'd recommend it due to your A1C or your insulin levels, right? But do it because you feel like it's a tool that would help support your body, not something to continue to deplete your body. And I really think too, like, society gravitates so much towards the quick fixes, because saying that you'll lose 20 pounds in your first month taking this product, to most people, that sounds a lot more appealing than hearing you're going to wake up with energy, you're going to get a full night of sleep and feel satisfied after eating balanced meals and understand your cravings and learn how to respond to them. That comes when you take the long approach, right? When you take the approach that most people don't want to take or choose not to take, but instead take the quick fix, because it's so easy. And I think that's where I struggle with my marketing, even of my business, because I can't get on social media and scream, work with me and you're going to lose 20 pounds in your first 2 months of working together, because that is the least from my concerns when it comes to working with someone. We want to make sure that you're eating enough, that you're eating balanced meals, that your blood sugar is regulated, that hormone levels are within range throughout your cycle, that you are getting a period, that you are having energy when you wake up in the morning, that you're able to fall asleep quickly when your head hits the pillow, that you feel confident and secure in your body, that you're building muscle, that your nutrient deficiencies are being met, that if you have something more severe happening, that we're doing what we can to support that organ, right? Like, we're utilizing then tools like castor oil pack to support your liver, eating green foods to support your liver. We're adding in fats to support your memory. Like, I could just list so many long-term benefits, but long-term tools that can come when you do things differently. And that's not here to sit and pitch you me or my business. That is not something I ever want you to feel is happening on an episode. But just to put it into perspective, when people talk about weight loss, it gets sales. It just does. When you talk about how much weight you've lost from a product and how much you can lose, it's going to make sales and generate sales. What you have to remember if you're the person selling that product is this for the greater good of the people around me? Are the people I'm selling this to actually identifying the emotional link to wanting to lose weight? And I would say for most people, they're not, because when you have a product, you sell the product. You're not selling a service. And I think that's where it gets really challenging, and where I, again, have just created a lot of empathy around women of all ages, and men, of course, too, but I don't work so much with men, around the topic of weight loss, because it is so loud. And in rare instances, do I start working with somebody that hasn't tried a different diet before, or a different diet program, or a different product before. And I think it's hard because all these products are marketed towards being a long-term fix. But what you have to remember is that any product you take to lose weight is typically one you have to be on forever if you don't want to gain weight back. There's not a lot of tapering off of these products that they do with people. And again, I know you can change dosages and stuff for GLP-1s, and that's a conversation that I'm not getting into. Yes, you can lower dosages to wean your body off of that, but how often do people do that, right? Or how often are you taking or doing a specific diet and then you just stop buying that product and then you notice, oh my gosh, my body, like what's happening? Everything is going back to how it was before. And again, you're finding yourself in that cycle of, I did this, and now I'm still not happy because as soon as I stop it, I'm back to where I was when I started. And that is where there's the difference between long-term support of your health and short-term support of your health. If you don't want to have to buy a product for the rest of your life, I really do think the long-term approach is so much healthier and more supportive in the long run. And will it give you instant results? No, but you're going to learn so much about yourself in the process. And I think that is just where I find passion in what I do, and why I can get on a podcast and just talk about it, honestly, until I was blue in the face, around why it is so important that you take the time to take care of yourself and think about the long term more than the short term, right? The long-term benefit more than the short term. And I think too, independence should be your goal, right? Independence from a product, independence from a person. Even if you're choosing to go the more long-term solution route of working with somebody, working with a nutritionist or a health coach or a dietitian or a functional medicine doctor, right? Like there's so many different people you could work with. That should never be a loop that you find yourself in for years and years and years. That person should have the ultimate goal that you find independence and you feel confident moving forward without their constant support. That is my goal with everyone that I work with, which is why closing up, sessions with people, having our last session together is so kind of emotional for me, because that is what I've worked them towards. And I'm not putting it all on me. It's not like I'm waving a magic wand and working all these miracles, but supporting this person, I didn't want it to be long-term, but at the same time, you build a connection and a relationship and you want to continue meeting with them. That is where I have to view their long-term health over my personal desire, right? Of continuing to have a relationship, fostering a connection. They are good, right? They don't need me. And that is my goal, that they don't need me. And I think that is where it's also different between a product or a diet, or even I see some like programs, right? It's these people wanting you to be in their cycle forever. And that's not my goal. That's typically not the goal of any coaches that I know in the same area or niche. I don't see that being a factor either, is they want your long-term success. And I think that really says a lot too about the person that you're working with and the person that you're, getting support from. Okay, so then how do we silence the noise? This is what I'm leaving you with. This is kind of like the takeaway. If you are also finding yourself seeing so much noise around weight loss and the need to lose weight all the time, these are some things that I've implemented recently that have been really helpful for me, because like I said, it still is triggering for me to see these things. It still is something that sets me off, and now I just get passionate because I know how detrimental it is to women's health and men's health to see these things all the time and constantly have this noise. But the first one is unfollowing people who constantly discuss weight loss, push a diet product, or trigger you in the sense of the things they share are always talking about how much weight they've lost or how much weight you could lose, or just pushing a product that you maybe don't even believe in. I think that's where I've had to unfollow people on any platform, is just if they're pushing a product I don't necessarily believe in and it's constantly in my face. It really is frustrating, and I think it's also just because of what I do as a job, it's frustrating to see so many people buy into the quick fix without thinking about their long-term health and how it can negatively impact their long-term health. Not every supplement is quality. Not every diet product is quality. Most often they are some of the worst quality you can consume. I'm very into quality of products and supplements, which is why even if it's recommended because it's by a doctor or a physician, or if it's like a healthy alternative to taking a weight loss medication, like that is just marketing. And so much of supplements these days is marketing. I actually was talking to a gal, and I want to have her on the podcast so bad. She's like so knowledgeable around supplements. And she was saying, I had sent her a couple brands and I'm like, can you look into these? And she's like, a lot of what they're doing within these products is pixie dusting. So they're saying that this product has all of these ingredients that are really, really good. And from my perspective, I would look at the label, and that's why I sent it to her. I'm like, I look at this label and I see there's a lot of physician support and the ingredients really don't look that questionable. Can you tell me, like, what do you see in this product that I don't see? And she's like, there's very, very small amounts that would actually do nothing except maybe suppress your appetite. There's very, very small amounts of something, of this product or of that ingredient in this product, but they can say and claim that it is full of all these really beneficial things, but the amount is actually not a high enough dosage to do anything. And that is why we have to really look at what we're consuming and look at the quality of what we're consuming and be aware, right, of what it's going to do to us long term. And what if we got off of whatever it is that we have been so influenced by as just a society? I think, like I said, it goes in waves. There's waves where there's one diet that's really being pushed, and then it's not so much, and then it's something else. And I just see it, and we've just become so obsessed with it since the 90s, probably even the 80s. And maybe even longer than that. Obviously, that's before I was born, so I'm not sure of when all of this propaganda really became popular. But I just feel like we're back in a season where it's really loud. The second thing here is focusing on the foundations, right? So if you see somebody pushing a diet product and you're like, I still don't feel great about myself, maybe I should just do this. Think about the foundations and think about, are you doing the foundations? Because I think another conversation that we could have is then people saying, I'm doing everything and I can't lose weight. Come back to the foundations. Have this be your kind of, deciding factor on, okay, is this actually something internal happening within my body, obviously internal, that is preventing weight loss from being a byproduct, if that was ever your goal. So the foundations: hydration, movement, building muscle. I've talked about that the last couple of podcast episodes. Getting good sleep, having good habits and routines, morning and evening, getting enough rest, listening to your body, managing stress, managing your environment if that's really causing stress, seeking support, increasing protein, having a balanced plate. Those are foundational components to your overall health, right? There's 8 of them. And I have really always come back to the foundations, even when I work with people on weight loss, if that's a byproduct they're hoping to see, because I do not specialize in weight loss, because there's so much more to it than that. But if that is a byproduct they're hoping to see, time and time again, if they are not seeing that, we come back to the foundations and I ask, are you doing these things? Which area do you feel really good about? Which area do you feel like is struggling right now? Because I can tell you for my own self, I am never doing all of these things 100% of the time, because we can't. We are not able to do everything. But I do think there can be a level of support happening in each, even if it's not like you're going above and beyond in each area. And that is where it just takes time to build habits that allow you to feel better physically. Building on the foundations, I would say that's a 6-month process, a 3 to 6 months process to establish the foundations. And then it's another however many years just to be consistent. Really, they're things that you should want to be consistent with for the rest of your life, right? If your long-term health is kind of that primary focus. And then the third and last one here is seeking support from a person, not a product. This is if you desire to see change, but that can help you work through your beliefs around yourself and guide you through healing your relationship with food. Maybe this is a therapist, maybe this is a friend, maybe this is a spouse, maybe this is a pastor or somebody at your church. I'm not saying it's somebody that you have to pay. I'm not trying to sell you myself either. I'm saying find somebody to offer support. That is one component of the 8 foundations I recommend, and one of them is support. Find support from somebody around you, or seek support if you don't feel comfortable opening up to somebody around you and you want somebody that maybe has more experience around the topic. Find somebody that you can pay to work with. Otherwise, it does not need to be somebody you pay. It can just be somebody to hold you accountable to the changes you want to see, that you want to implement. And it also gives you an outlet to talk about, like, why do you still struggle, or why do you still say things to yourself in the mirror when you look at yourself? Like, why are those negative thoughts around, I need to be tinier, I need to lose weight, always coming up for you? Why is it hard for you to actually eat a full meal and not just snack throughout the day, right? Maybe you have a fear of overeating if you are exposed to food. Maybe you undereat. There are so many components there. And like I said, that's sometimes when you have to look at yourself and see, like, to what level do you need support? Because obviously talking to a trained professional is probably going to be more beneficial than talking to a friend, but they can still provide support for you and give you gentle feedback. Or if you don't want feedback, just get their support and have somebody that knows what you're going through, what you're struggling with, what your thoughts are, and then see how you can navigate that together or move forward working with somebody else while still leaning on the people around you. Because really, and I think I mentioned this last week too, friendships are kind of what coaches are now. Friendships, how am I trying to say that? People pay for support from a therapist or a coach now because we aren't really finding that in friendships. I think there's maybe a lack of connection sometimes for people. And that's not to say if you work with a therapist or a coach that you don't have friendships in your personal life. I just think I see kind of a shift there where, like, it should be okay to lean on your friends for things that are a little bit more serious and to be able to trust them with what you're telling them. And so obviously, with your own comfortability, navigate that on your own terms, but just something to think about. All right, so that is really what I wanted to talk about today. I really hope that you're leaving today's episode with takeaways for how you can silence the noise around this. Obviously, talking about it is bringing noise and attention to it, but hopefully through listening to today's episode, you feel like you can navigate the conversation around weight loss a little bit differently and really put that focus in your long-term health versus thinking about those quick fixes that I know are so easy to fall for. And I'm not shaming you if you have fallen for them, or if you are currently, or if you are taking something and maybe it is a diet product but you love it. That is great for you. And again, everybody is different. That's where bioindividuality comes in. Everybody's body is different. Everybody's response to a product is different. And so do what you feel like you need to do for yourself. But I think it does help to bring light to a topic like weight loss and just kind of the bombardment that is coming with it, and to know that there are options if that is not the route you want to take. Okay, if taking a quick fix is not the route you want to take, or if you are really content in your vessel right now, praise the Lord, seriously, because that is a gift to be content. And again, I talk about this so passionately because I've seen time and time again that not be the case in women that I work with, and it breaks my heart. It makes me so sad. I see patterns in myself. I see the generational impact of certain patterns within myself, and I think it just is a conversation that can be really touchy. So hopefully you are not leaving feeling like discouraged or frustrated. I always want you to leave feeling encouraged and inspired to really just take care of yourself, take care of your whole body health, and ultimately live your most nourished life. All right, so let's go ahead and close today's episode in prayer. So dear Lord, just thank you for today and the opportunity to talk just openly about this conversation. I ask that it just really hits close to home for some, in a sense that it feels like a supportive conversation to have and has given them a different perspective. I also just pray for the women and men listening to this episode that they really start to see themselves as you see them and stop constantly criticizing and wanting to harm or hurt their body, but instead wanting to rebuild and honor their body in the vessel and the temple you've given them to take care of. I just, again, pray for the well-being of everyone listening to today's episode and that you just continue to keep them safe until we talk again. In Jesus' name we pray, amen. All right, so if you're interested in following along with my life outside of the podcast, you can find me at Nourish with Bailey on Instagram. And YouTube, I would say, is probably maybe where you'd see the most content. Otherwise, my website and email is linked in the description of today's episode. I am currently now taking on clients. You can join the waitlist for the programs or blood work that I do. So know that is always an option if you're looking for extra support. But otherwise, if you just need somebody to talk to and share some things with, I'm also here for you. All right, so with that, I'll talk to you again next Wednesday. Bye.